Hey guys, welcome to episode 11 of the Awesome Blossom Knits podcast. My name is Lauren and I'm coming to you from my home in Iwakuni, Japan. And thank you so much for joining me today. I do have a couple of finished projects, so let's go ahead and start there. The first one is these socks. The pattern is the Driftwood Socks by Mina Phillip or Knitting Expat Designs. And the yarn is my own hand-dyed yarn, so Awesome Blossom Knits yarn in the BFL sock base. And this color is called Christmas Party. And I really love how they came out. So last time I recorded, I think I talked about how the socks were coming out bigger than I wanted them. They were coming out too big. And I had a similar problem on the last pair of socks I knit. But I had started on 64 stitches, knitting these on size US 1 or 2.25 millimeter needles, which has been kind of my standard sock size for a while now, and they're quite baggy. You can see how baggy they are on the sock blockers here. And I went down to 60 stitches on the foot of the sock, and they fit better, more like I want them to. I would have decreased the stitch count sooner, but I didn't realize it until I was almost to the heel of the first sock that they were coming out too big. And I wasn't sure if it was this stitch pattern making the socks fit looser or what the problem was. I don't think it's the stitch pattern though. I went back and I measured the gauge on the stockinette side of the sock because I only did the pattern on the front, so the back of the sock is just stockinette. And my gauge on these is 7 stitches per inch. Socks that I knit a few months ago, same weight of yarn, similar yardage, per skein, fingering weight, same size needles. They haven't even been worn yet, just socks that I knit fairly recently. They were 8 1/4 stitches per inch. So that's a pretty big difference in gauge over the course of a few months. And it definitely makes a difference in how the socks fit. So all that to say, I think I need to go down in needle size for the next pair of socks that I knit. I could just go down in stitch count and knit my socks 56 or 60 stitches, but I actually don't like the gauge, the really loose gauge that I've been getting. I don't know, I just like a tighter fabric, especially for socks. So I have ordered some needles, and I'm not casting on any more socks until I get them, because I don't already have any 2 millimeter sock needles. So I have to wait for those to come in the mail. But that is it for those. My next finished project is this hat that I made for my son. I made this to match a scarf that I showed a while back, several episodes ago. And let's see, I didn't use a pattern. I used the gauge from the scarf, measured the gauge, and then measured his head and figured out how many stitches to cast on. And I did this kind of double brim here, so it's nice and thick. Should be pretty warm. The yarns are Vanna's Choice by Lion Brand in Silver Heather and Kelly Green, and Loops and Threads Impeccable in Royal and True Gray. And I did the same striping sequence that I did on the scarf. And then I did a pom-pom with all the colors. And let's see, I used this pom-pom maker. It's the Clover pom-pom maker. It's the green colored one. I want to say this is the large size. I have one that's bigger than this, but I think that one's the extra large and this is the large, but it's the green one. All the yarns are 100% acrylic and they are Aran weight. I think I cast on 80 stitches. And I can't remember if I put notes on my project page on Ravelry for this one yet. If not, I'm going to update that with notes on, you know, how many stitches I cast on and the decreases and such. So that's the hat. And then when I was done with this, I cast on some mittens, which are also done. Same yarns. I think I used size 10 needles, US size 10 needles for all of these. For the mittens, again, I didn't use a pattern, I just made it up. I think I cast on 22 stitches and did 1 by 1 ribbing. And then just a super basic mitten construction. I will say that I went too far with the thumb gusset. I could have stopped the thumb gusset several rows sooner because this thumb is really big. But it's good enough. It fits them all right. And I did already put notes on Ravelry about how I made these, so if you're interested, you can check that out on the project page for these. I just put notes about how I did the thumb gusset and the decreases at the top. And I always put in the description box below my Ravelry username. It's LaurenAlia, so you can find me on there and then check out project pages for any of these projects that I've knit. This pair of mittens only took 28 grams of yarn. So not very much. You could definitely knit something like this out of some scraps. And these were for my son who's 7. I don't remember if I said that, but little kid mittens. Okay. So that's all my finished projects. My first work in progress is this. This is going to be a like headband, ear warmer kind of thing to keep my ears warm when I don't want to wear a full hat. And it's like beautiful cables. The pattern I'm using is called Cable Braids Headband by Hannah Payman. And the original one, I believe it's done in fingering weight yarn, and there are 3 of these cable braids, braid cables next to each other. I'm using, I think this yarn is more like a worsted weight, so I am only doing 2 cables, and I'm using a size 6 or 4 millimeter needles. The yarn is Worcester Color Melange. Let's see. There we go. It is 60% wool and 40% acrylic, and it comes in 30 gram balls. So the reason I'm not done with this yet is because I am just about out of yarn, and I'm like probably maybe a little more than halfway done with this, but I definitely don't have enough to finish it, so I need to go and get another ball. So it's kind of just been sitting for a few days, but it is knitting up very quickly. Oh, the color of the yarn. Did not have a colorway name, but it's color number 16. And it's a really pretty heathered, kind of purplish blue, bluish purple. And I think this yarn has pretty nice stitch definition. I really like it. So, yeah, that's the Cable Braids Headband by Hannah Payman. And my last work in progress is a tiny little baby sock. This yarn is some leftovers from a pair of socks I knit myself some time ago. It was from HeartWarmed Studios, I believe is the name of the Etsy shop I bought it from. And I think the color was called Aqua Dream. But I just cast on 32 stitches and just started knitting a sock like normal. This is just for my husband's coworker. One of his coworkers is having a baby, so I'm gonna knit a few little baby things for them. I don't really have anything else to say about these. They're just gonna be plain little vanilla socks. I do love this yarn though. It's really pretty. And I think this was a BFL sock. So 75% BFL, 25% nylon, if I'm remembering correctly. Feels like BFL sock. I just cast them on because I needed something to knit, and I'm out of yarn for my headband, and I don't have needles for the socks I want to cast on for myself because I need smaller size needles now, apparently. And I'm also waiting on some needles for something else I want to cast on with this yarn. I want to knit the sock head cowl by, is it Katie McClure or Kelly McClure? I forget. But I have this Malabrigo sock yarn that I want to make a cowl out of. But I didn't have the right size needles, so I'm waiting for those too. So yeah, that's all of my knitting that I have to share today. I'm sorry if I seem a little off today. I have a sore throat and it's making talking for any period of time kind of challenging, and it's just really distracting me because I have to keep stopping to get a drink. But that's all my knitting for today. So one last thing I wanted to talk about before I go is some podcast recommendations. So there's a few knitting crafty podcasts I've been watching and enjoying and thought you guys might like to check out too if you haven't already. So there's 3 of them I have to recommend today. So the first one is LNS Crafts, Gemma B Makes, and The Knitting Teaspoon. And all 3 of them are hosted by some lovely ladies, and I will link to their channels down in the description box below, so please go check them out. And that's all I have today, so see you guys next time. Bye!